Well, you have said that you want to block visas for nations that ask for slavery reparations.
Yeah.
You're basically saying you won't give visas then to huge swathes of the Caribbean and Africa. Let's just list the countries that have asked for slavery reparations: Barbados, Jamaica, Guyana, Antigua, Barbuda, Bahamas, Belize, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Trinidad, Tobago, Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya. The list goes on.
Let's talk about the audacity. The UK's Reform Party just threatened to ban visas for Ghana and 16 other African and Caribbean nations, all because they asked for reparations for the transatlantic slave trade.
Wagwan, me good people. Welcome to another episode with African Burial. If you haven't subscribed yet, kindly do so, and I would really appreciate if you are returning gang. God bless. Thank you for always supporting African Burial here. Appreciate it. So today we are here with the topic: no visas for Jamaica and some African countries because they're asking for reparations from UK. So UK has decided that instead of paying these reparations, why not just revoke and deny visas to Jamaicans and Africans? Let's see who has the power. So guys, if you're wondering what is reparations, I'll just highlight it or just explain it so that you get to understand. Reparations are measures taken to address and compensate for serious historical injustice or harms suffered by individuals, communities, or nations. Reparations can take different forms and are not limited to cash payments. Now, in this case, UK, we are talking about the reparations during the transatlantic damages that happened. People lost homes, most lost a lot of assets, and this should be a compensation for them. But instead, UK is fighting not to pay the reparation, but instead cutting off by revoking and denying Jamaicans and Africans the visas. So let's watch the following videos. Let's hear the following creators, and all credits goes to the original content creators of the videos. And if you haven't subscribed, again, kindly do so. I would really appreciate it. God bless, and watch till the end. I'll come back with my 2 cents.
The African Union is demanding reparations from the West in one hand and making deals with them in the other. We also need to talk about who the reparations will actually meet. My name is Tolu and I love all things development, Africa and political economy. In March 2026, the UN passed a landmark resolution recognizing the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity and calling for reparations. The African Union, with 55 African nations as members, has been pushing for this for years. Listen, the moral case for this is justified. Britain transported roughly 3.4 million Africans across the Atlantic. The ideology justifying this was European, the ships are European, and the demand was European. But here is the part that nobody is saying out loud. While the African Union is demanding accountability from the West, Nigeria just signed a sweeping agreement with the Trump administration. And the Kenyan youth are in the streets protesting their leaders who prioritize the IMF, who is in Washington, D.C., instead of answering to its own people. And just last month, Tinubu was in London, full photo ops, full royal ceremony, while the average Nigerian is living through one of the country's worst cost of living crises. And this is not partnership. We know that this is the same extractive logic, just rebranded. And the historical truth just makes this messier. African political elites were not passive in the slave trade, as we know. The oil empire expanded through it. Regional leaders became colonial intermediaries. And the institutional descendants of the same collaborators are the political elites of today. They run the African nations today. So yes, reparations are needed, but if the money just flows from one set of elites to the other, the people that were destroyed by this system get nothing again. Asking for justice while continuing to deal with the people that caused this harm isn't ironic. It is a question about intention.
You have said that you want to block visas for nations that ask for slavery reparations.
Yeah.
You're basically saying you won't give visas then to huge swathes of the Caribbean and Africa. Let's just list the countries that have asked for slavery reparations: Barbados, Jamaica, Guyana, Antigua, Barbuda, Bahamas, Belize, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Trinidad, Tobago, Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya. The list goes on. You think that's a feasible and operative plan?
If they
that won't
continue
be
to make,
thwarted by lawfare?
if they can make, well, being thwarted by lawfare. Here's another thing people really need to understand. And I think people watching GB News do understand this. His Majesty's Parliament is sovereign. This notion that, a minister will sit there and a prime minister will sit there and just get overruled by courts. If we pass primary legislation to ensure those things happen, it will happen. You can mark my words on that. And again,
so you're quite happy
at the last 20 years,
people coming from the Caribbean or Africa, say, for instance, if they have relatives here, you're going to say you just can't come because your country, even if you don't personally support it, supports slavery reparations.
I think you're making the exact argument about why there are outrageous demands that people watching this programme should pay them reparations.
Outrageous to demand slavery reparations, but people might equally think that it might be used as a sledgehammer.
It's about time Britain. Do you not agree, Camilla? It's about time Britain grew a backbone. And what we're saying is, if Nigel Farage is our Prime Minister, we're not going to allow Britain to be slapped around on the world stage. By the way, number one, Keir Starmer abstained outrageously in the UN vote about this matter. Number two, over the last 20 years, and again, the Tories are in power for the majority of that, those countries you just listed who are demanding reparations, we granted those countries millions of visas and issued them £6 billion, with a B in foreign aid. We've had enough of British people being taken advantage of.
Some of the people that come from the Caribbean and Africa have made their lives here and are paying taxes and are embracing British values, aren't they?
In which case, they are almost certainly British citizens.
Talking about banning visas from countries who are demanding reparations from Britain. Now, the problem here is that we are talking about a number of Commonwealth countries in the Caribbean. How do you think this is going to go down with His Majesty the King?
Well, we're most concerned about doing the right thing for the British people. Look, there's a racket going on now for years. Countries are lining up, claiming in some cases trillions of pounds in reparations for supposed crimes from centuries ago. Britain was the first major power to abolish the slave trade in 1807 and spent almost 2% of its national income for 60 years enforcing that ban on the high seas, lost thousands of heroic soldiers through sailors through the West Africa squadron. So what Reform is saying is simple. Any country, if Reform's in government, any country that makes a vexatious demand like this for reparations, which is obviously insulting and outrageous, we're not going to tolerate it anymore and just allow Britain to be slapped around. And British taxpayers will no longer just be an ATM for ethnic grievances from across the world. We will ban visa issuances to nationals of those countries. And over the last 20 years, Tory and Labour governments have issued 3.8 million visas to nationals of those countries and £6.6 billion in aid that'll go to.
A UK political party called Reform UK is proposing to ban the visas of countries who had voted for reparations for slavery. As an advocate of Jamaica and someone who is in talks and has conversations and knows people on the ground and has family in Jamaica, I would like to invite you all to a protest that's occurring on April 13th to speak out against British colonialism and to retrieve Jamaica back to the people. Now, although Jamaica claims to be an independent country, it is still very much owned by the British. The British High Court have the ability to overturn and override what the Jamaican courts say. And that's why we've seen certain people released from prison when the Jamaican government did not support that as such. Nor did many of the Jamaican people, let's just be honest. But most importantly, the British monarchy has taken advantage of the vulnerability of the people in Jamaica. They are guilty of violating the human rights of Jamaicans. And it's time for Jamaicans to stand up against them. It's time for all of us to use our voice and start speaking out. And if you are in Jamaica, then please join us on March 13 to speak out against the injustices that have been happening toward Jamaicans in Jamaica at the hands of the British monarchy. Join us on April 13 at 11 a.m. at the JDF Admiral Office. Fight with your fellow Jamaicans and stand up for what's right. This is the No British Imposter protest. If you'd like more information, please check the caption where you can give us a shout and we can support you along the way. One Jamaica.
The UK is not playing with these Africans or Caribbeans. They say if you ask for reparations because of the transatlantic slave trade, you're not coming to their country.
Reform UK would block visas from anyone from countries which have demanded reparations over slavery. This would halt legal migration from 17 countries that are calling for financial compensation over Britain's role in the slave trade. The ban would block people from getting work, study and temporary visas. Reform Zia Youssef has said the bank is closed and the door is locked for anyone who wanted to use history as a weapon to drain our treasury. So which 17 countries would be affected? African nations Nigeria, Kenya and Ghana are among the countries which have called for compensation, as well as 11 Caribbean countries including the Bahamas, Barbados and Jamaica. Reform's announcement comes as the government and the royal family face pressure to agree to talks on reparations. Experts have estimated these would amount to trillions of pounds.
They have a point. It's like y'all double dipping, because everybody benefited from the transatlantic slave trade. You take the Caribbeans, they got countries out of the transatlantic slave trade. There was people, indigenous people in these islands before the transatlantic slave trade took place, but afterwards, now the descendants of those slaves are basically over those countries. When the oppressed become the oppressors, that's the sum of it, right? And you talk about Africa, especially Ghana and Nigeria, they was begging the British not to abolish slavery because it was going to impact their economy. I feel like the U.S. should adopt the same policies. If your country is talking about reparations from the United States when the United States had nothing to do with it, the only people that should be talking about reparations from the United States is Black Americans. But yeah, let me know what y'all think about this policy, because this is from the Reform UK party. If they become the dominant force in Parliament, this is what they're going to implement. Shout out to Nigel. Let me be specific. The only people deserve reparations from the transatlantic slave trade in America, the United States, is Black Americans. And that Ghanaian president, yeah, he greedy.
So you did not vote on the resolution. You don't want to return the stolen artifacts. You don't want to pay reparations. And now you want to deny visas? Let's talk about something that should concern everyone. A resolution led by Ghana at the United Nations is pushing for global discussion surrounding the transatlantic slave trade and reparations. This is something that has been internationally recognized for decades. But here's where things get extremely disturbing. Reform UK is suggesting denying visas for people who are from countries that are demanding reparations. Let that sink in for a minute. Punishing everyday citizens, not governments, for historical accountability? That's not a resolution. That is literally retaliation. Visa systems are supposed to be about travel, fairness, opportunity, not political punishment. This does not resolve anything, and it doesn't change history. It deepens the division. And if we start weaponizing immigration policy like this, where does it stop? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'll see you in the next video.
Let's talk about the audacity. The UK's Reform Party just threatened to ban visas for Ghana and 16 other African and Caribbean nations, all because they asked for reparations for the transatlantic slave trade. 7 European countries, including the UK, enslaved and trafficked more than 15 million Africans across the Atlantic. And that stolen labor built Western wealth. Now they want to punish the descendants for asking to be repaid. Last month, the UN declared that the transatlantic slave trade was the gravest crime against humanity, and they called for reparations. The UK abstained. Then they told Africa that the bank is closed. But they don't want you to think about this. 101 companies on the London Stock Exchange control $1.3 trillion in African resources. And that's just in oil, coal, platinum, gold, and diamonds. The UK extracts $116 billion more from Africa every year than it returns in aid. Britain is South Africa's single largest international investor, with more than $65 billion invested. A recent UK-Nigeria trade deal alone was worth about $1 billion. Now, they need Africa's land. They need Africa's resources and Africa's labor and Africa's markets. If African nations banned British executives and investors the way Reform wants to ban African people, Britain would feel it immediately. You see, Africa is demanding justice, When Britain abolished slavery in 1833, they paid $25 billion in today's money, not to the enslaved, to the enslavers. The African people got nothing. And now their descendants are called an ethnic grievance? This is not policy. This is white supremacy with a parliamentary stamp. The refusal to repair is the continuation of the original sin. Africa holds the power. Africa holds the resources. Africa holds the future. And if you didn't know, now you know.
This is the reason why. Because Jamaica is pushing for reparations, the UK, the party that is currently in opposition, say anytime them come in a power, them are going to make sure say Jamaica get banned. Because Jamaica is one of the countries that have always lobbied for reparations. You see Dr. Ali from Donga, Guyana? I remember him go on one interview with one of the man them. And as soon as him get the opportunity, him tell him, say, look here, no one never have a problem for benefit from slavery. The whole want to sit down up there in the White Houses and all of those places well comfortable benefiting from slaves. But yet still when it come time for to pay back black people, everybody hush hush and everybody broke. There was a black person who came in my comments and asked, why is it that we should be reparated when we're not slaves? Why is it that they reparated people who never owned slaves back in 2015? Why would they do such a thing? Everybody had the money to pay the descendants of slave owners, but when it come time for we get little shillings, everybody have a problem. There are plantations in this country that are still owned by the descendants of slave owners. Plantations that mine and your ancestors build, them can block we from every country in this world. I don't care. Wow, with reparations. That's how we are defending. That's how me are telling us on the need for remain focused. All of this, on willing. Black people are a set of people. Black people remind me of Jacob and Esau. Esau was willing to give away his birthright for a little food. We out here were willing to give away everything, every single thing for one little visa.
I read the news so that you don't have to. Imagine the government saying, if your country asks us to pay for slavery, we're going to ban you from coming here. Not the politicians, not diplomats, you. Students, nurses, workers. Well, that's actually what's being proposed. So this headline says, Reform UK accused of risking economy with visa threat over reparations. Wanna know Wagwan? Come in, let me tell you, because it'll be unsurprising to you that this is coming from Reform UK, who are currently doing well in the polls, where their Home Affairs spokesperson, Zia Youssef, basically said that if any country demands slavery reparations from the UK, a reform government would stop issuing visas to their citizens. We're not talking about random countries here, we're talking about places like Jamaica, Ghana, Nigeria, aka countries with deep historical ties to Britain, and thousands of people coming here every single year to study, to work and contribute to the economy. Okay, let me break this down to you why this is not just wild, but it's also economically dumb. If you look last year alone, Nigeria issued 150,000 plus visas, Ghana 38,000 plus visas. These aren't just numbers, mind you, these are NHS workers, these are students paying international fees, these are skilled migrants filling labour shortages. So what Reform are basically saying is we're going to punish our own economy to make a political point about history. But they're framing it as, you know what, Britain's already did enough. We abolished slavery, didn't we? Cool. But what they don't want to mention is that the UK paid £20 million in 1837. Not to the enslaved people, no, but to the enslavers. That's about £2 billion in today's money. And not only that, the descendants of enslaved people were paying taxes that contributed to reparations for the enslavers of their ancestors because they finished paying that bill in 2015. So let's be clear, compensation did happen, just not to the people that were actually enslaved. So what does this all mean? Well, politically, it's just classic culture war stuff. Of course, it's reform. Economically, they are risking labour shortages, they are risking university funding, as well as strained international relationships. And socially, they're basically saying to entire nations, because your government said something that we don't like, you people are no longer welcome here. And this is where it gets a little bit uncomfortable for certain people, because if you are from certain communities, African, Caribbean, and you're backing policies like this because you think it's economically smart, it's not. It's emotional politics dressed up as economics. Because there is nothing economically rational about cutting thousands of workers, students, and taxpayers from your own economy. In case you think this is about reparations, it isn't. It's immigration policy being used as a political weapon again.
Do you think that it is time that the UK, England, pay up Jamaica its reparation money? Comment me inside of the comment section. Now, since the days of Michael Manley, Bruce Golding, PJ Patterson, Edward Seaga, all former prime ministers had one thing in common, that Britain must pay up its reparation money for slavery to the Jamaican people. Well, I'm here to tell you what Britain says about that, and any country that is currently seeking reparation, you need to hear about this. This is a major story, all right? It's a Wednesday, and I'm early with this post. One post a day, keep idleness away. So here is Virtual TV, not forgetting to give you a post every single day, all right? Yes, different location, different setup, with a whole heap of new things to come. I've been saying that for quite some time, but just wait. In the meantime, leave a like on the video, share the video, repost the video, and follow the page. Now, it has been a long-standing debate and conversation that the UK, Britain, should pay up its reparation money to Jamaica for slavery, right? Right. And as I listed, many former prime ministers all had a single thing in common, whether JLP or PNP, that they must pay. Well, according to the UK Reform Political Party, any country, including Jamaica, that is seeking from Britain for reparation will be blocked permanently by visas if you're seeking reparation. Now, they say that this is the move that they will implement when they come into power. They're saying this: work visas, visiting visas, visas at all levels if you're from Jamaica, and if the Jamaican government is seeking reparation when they step into power, when visas or visa entries will be blocked permanently, including countries like Jamaica, if you're going to seek reparation. What are your thoughts on that? I will be giving you more updates. Stay tuned. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Have you ever been happy to be right and at the same time sad to be right, but at the same time you're just happy that you were right? I was in a TikTok group with 25 people and we were discussing the gravest crime of all times, which is slavery. It was voted, right? And England did not finalize their part in the situation. America just said no, nay, nada. I believe Argentina and Israel did the same thing. But the conversation we were having was simply about the reparation, you know, the payout. And I said, we're not getting any money. Stop going back and forth about the money. And the Jamaicans there, they were so mad I was in the box. And I said, I was also like, you know what? Where are we even going after the money? And there was this big conversation. No one understood me because I know something. I've been watching politics for a very long time and I knew something was going to happen. So this is what happened. Exactly what I said. I said, listen up, people. Before they gave us a cent, a dollar, what they're going to do is just ban us no more visa. Because they know most Caribbean and most African people are obsessed with England, Canada, America. Obsessed with Europe. They're obsessed with being into these places. And every time they want to eat us, the first thing they do is say to us, you know, we're not going to give you any visa. We're going to cancel your visa. Every time they use it against Jamaica. So I know, I just knew that the way to shut everybody up is to say, if you insist, if you really want it, then you're no longer allowed to come in our country. And because we are greedy to go there, we will just back down. Zaya, Or Zia, is that the name of the Pakistani politician guy? That's exactly what he said a few days ago. Yes! I was right! Yes, I was right! You know I'm 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 right! Everybody know I'm right! Yes, I was right! He said, if you insist on getting money from us, then we won't give you guys visas anymore. We will block all of you from entering to our country. I knew it. They weren't going to give us any money. Any money. In fact, Zia, what he said is that 6 billion already been paid out. 6 billion. I never knew 6 billion was paid out. So I am here thinking, if 6 billion was paid out, and if we're going to split that over about 35 countries, hold on, let me calculate. My maths class never get me prepared for this. 171 million and some change would be for each country. Somebody get a calculator and help me fix this. Per each country. Now, how we never heard of Jamaica getting 171 million pounds from England? We never heard of that. But that is what he said. He said 6 billion. Someone calculate, help a sister out. And then, what we have, 2.5 million people on the island. £64 and some cents, right? Somebody help a sister, help a sister, help a sister. I went to maths class, accounting class, but I wasn't prepared for this. So anyway, so £64 and some cent for each Jamaican. Where is my £64? I want my £64. I just pay my tax, my parents' tax, my grandma tax, and a mistake made and I pay for my great grandma tax. I have never even seen my great grandma. So that money would belongs to me. That money, that £64 and a couple of cents would belongs to me. Which politician got my money? I would like to go and pick it up. Is it the one there now? The one before? Mr. Patterson, I genuinely hope you're not the one who got my money. Anywhere now where I can find Mr. Patterson? That's our former Prime Minister. Maybe he's the one that got my £64. I would greatly appreciate my £64, Mr. Patterson, if you can tell me where to meet you and the time. I'll be there to get my £64. I appreciate it. But I'm telling you, they're not going to give us any money. And because so many of us are so greedy to get their visa, that is what they're going to use and shut down every single country. Jamaica, Trinidad, Ghana, all of us. Kenya, all of us. They're going to shut down all of us with their visa. And I was right. Bye.
If you are a Nigerian, a Ghanaian, from Kenya, Jamaica, Barbados, in fact, if your country was once among those countries that were enslaved, hello everyone, there is this topic that is blowing up right now, that the UK is pushing for a visa ban for any country that has been asking the UK to pay them for reparations, slavery reparation. Now, this is what this is all about. Now, the Reform UK yesterday, or is it the day before yesterday, they made a bold statement that if they eventually win the elections in the UK, that they will stop issuing any new visa to people from Nigeria, from Ghana, Kenya, Jamaica, Barbados, and many other Caribbean countries that were bought, that their people were bought during the slave trade. Now, what is their argument? They said that these countries asking for reparation, like a compensation for the role Britain played in the slave era. But the reform, they are saying that they won't be paying that money, because if for one thing that the UK or Britain, that Britain was the one that stopped the slave trade in 1807 and even stopped anything about slavery, abolishment of slavery in 1833. So that if there is anything that the taxpayer shouldn't be wasting their money to pay countries because of history of old. So political critics have called this bullying and racist. Personally, I don't even care. But then their argument is that slavery or the slave trade have left deep psychological and every other negative things in them and in their countries, and for one thing they need financial aid to sort them out, and they need justice. So currently there is no cause for alarm, there is no cause for panic, because this is not the law. This is no law. This is just a campaign promise trying to buy the heart of the British people, or the British people, to buy them over during the campaign so that they will gain their votes. So do not panic about this. It's nothing for now. Now, this is about history. This is about fairness. This is about justice. But my question is, how does it concern the visa? How does it concern the getting visa or not getting visa? If there is anything, sort it out with those countries. Shouldn't be affecting the ordinary man trying to better his life. So what do you think?
Should the UK block visas just because a country asks for slavery reparations? Reform UK says that if a country asks Britain for slavery reparations, people from that country should be blocked from getting UK visas. It was reported on the 7th of April 2026, and the proposal will link to countries including Jamaica and Ghana. It is a political proposal and not current UK law. From an immigration perspective, this is a huge statement because it would mean ordinary visa applicants could be affected based on their position of their government, not because of anything they personally did. Talking about workers, students, visitors, family members and business people. Legally, as things stand today, UK visa applications are decided under the immigration rules and the requirements of the relevant route. There is no current immigration rule that says someone can be refused a UK visa simply because their country is seeking reparations from Britain. This is a political stunt and not an active immigration policy. The wider backdrop is that calls for reparations have been growing internationally. The Guardian also reports that Commonwealth leaders intended to continue pressing the issue despite this proposal. So the real question is, should immigration control be used as a political weapon in historical disputes? Because once visas start being tied to international political disagreements, that goes far beyond border control. This isn't law right now, but it's definitely the kind of proposal migrants and businesses and advisors should be watching closely. Comment below and let me know what you think.
Thank you for watching till this end. I would remind again, if you haven't subscribed to this African girl, what are you waiting for? Kindly subscribe to my channel, African Beryl. I'll appreciate, and God bless. So I'll be continuing where I stopped earlier. So reparations might include financial compensations to individuals or communities, land restitution, to the return of property that was taken during the transatlantic war. Official apologies and formal acknowledgement, which I know Jamaicans and African, that is not the word they are looking for. Investment in in affected communities, such as funding for education, healthcare, housing, and infrastructure, institutional reforms to help prevent similar injustice in the future. So one of the most widely discussed example today is reparations for the transatlantic slave trade, and this is what is affecting most people in the UK, and this is what is bringing the online debate because most people don't want to pay for that. The UK government doesn't want to pay for the transatlantic slave trade and colonialism reparations. So government in the Caribbean, Government in the Caribbean, including members of CARICOM, have called on former colonial powers such as United Kingdom, France, and Netherlands to provide reparations for the lasting effects of slavery and colonial rule. And so the supporters are arguing that the economic and social impacts of slavery and colonialism continue to affect descendants and former colonies. Yeah. Some had long-term lasting effects. Countries and institutions that benefited from those systems have a responsibility to help repair the harm. And then the government or your opponents like UK are arguing that it is difficult to determine who should pay and who should receive reparations generations later. Present day taxpayers should not be held financially responsible for actions committed by previous generations. Other approaches such as development aid, trade, and investment may be more effective. So reparations are a subject of ongoing legal, ethical, and political debate, and there is no a single international standard requiring countries to provide them. So guys, that is what has been going, and here are the main points that I got out of from the people creators that were talking about. So the UK has denied or refused visas to applicants from a range of countries, including Jamaica, several African nations, for reasons such as immigration rules, financial requirements, and concerns about applicants overstaying visas. Refusal rates vary by country and over time. At the same time, the Caribbean government, through organizations such as CARICOM, have formally sought reparations from the former colonial powers, including the UK, for the legalities of slavery and colonialism. So, successful UK governments have generally rejected the idea of paying reparations. Instead, they have emphasized development, partnership, trade, investment, and aid rather than financial compensations. So, guys, I think so. That's it. I don't want to be repeating myself, and so that's the online debate that has been sparking, and most people are talking about it. What do you think? I want to know what your 2 cents about it. Do you think it's fair UK revoking or denying visas to the Jamaicans and Africans because of they asked the reparations, which they are honestly entitled to, or do you think it's not fair? Let me know what you think about. Let me know what you think about all these discussions and debate going online. No visa for Jamaica, Kenya, Africa, where. Let me know. What do you think about it? Kindly subscribe if you haven't yet, and thank you for watching till this end. I honestly appreciate your love and support. Keep tuned in, keep subscribing. Let me know what kind of content you really want to know, or what kind of political discussions you want to see or hear from me. Kindly subscribe, leave their comment down below, and show a girl some love. God bless, and catch me on the next one.